Hello everybody. Thank you for joining me this week in A Moment to Art. In this corner we learn how to use different polymer clay tools and learn how to make different things. And this week I am super excited because I have created some butterfly cutters that I just love the shape of them. They are very versatile. You're going to love them. And there's so many different sizes that you won't know what to do with them and which size you want. But for this particular tutorial, I'll go over everything that you need. This is an epoxy clay tutorial. The difference between polymer clay and epoxy clay is this. Epoxy clay, you're going to get in a 50-50 mixture. Usually it's 50% one, 50% of the other, and you mix them together, and it hardens. And this right here, you don't have to bake it. You can sand it if you want, but this is great for adding components that maybe you couldn't add to a polymer clay item because you don't want to put it in the oven. So this particular tutorial is going to use these two right here. I'm using this particular brand that I recommended. The link is in the comment section, or not the comments, but the information section. So what you're going to need, of course, is your epoxy clay, white or black. I tend to go more towards black because I love the way that mica powder reflects on the black epoxy clay. You can paint epoxy clay, but I find that I don't want to paint it because I don't want to have to go around the little details, all the details that I have on here, and risk getting paint where I don't want it. As far as painting the whole thing is concerned, I'm still probably going to add some details here and there with maybe some white or gold paint just to, you know, highlight a few things on these. But overall, I like how they turned out. Like I said, it hardens within 24 hours. You'll notice that with this particular brand of epoxy clay, you have a lot of time to really work with it. You're going to want to finish, though, in a reasonable amount of time. This isn't something that you can take hours to do. This is something that's going to give you about 15 to 20 minutes per piece to work on it. I typically can get this done usually within about 20 minutes to get everything on here. As long as you have everything around you to do that, it goes quite quickly, and the flow is nice. So once you get used to using epoxy clay, you know that it does not take much to create something like this. It really takes, per piece, I'd say it takes about 20 grams altogether, 10 of the compound A, 10 grams of the compound B will get you a nice design like this that you can work with. The next thing that you're going to need besides your epoxy clay is something to help you form the earpiece. Now, when I went to dry this particular piece, I did not mean for it to loop so close. So I did want to show you guys that there is the reason that you need a template really is to kind of help you see where your loop is going to come so that you can make sure that your piece flows smoothly and can hook onto an ear. Now, while I can still use this personally, it's not as easy to put it on as, say, these pieces are. So you're going to want your template. Now, I personally like working with ear models. They're basically just little fake ears. You know, do keep in mind that you will, from different sellers, the ones that you get from here. These are a decent size. I like working with these. They mimic a human ear. And if you're going to be selling these, you really do want ear models anyway, because this really helps drive home what you are selling and how to use it. So basically, you're just putting your hook onto your ear, just like that. And these come with the little plastic backs too. And then this one, this hook was so close together when it dried, and I didn't realize that until the next morning, that I can wear it on my ear and it doesn't cause me discomfort, but this might quite possibly could bother somebody. So you can see how this one's smooth and it hooks right on nicely and stays on nicely. Also, you'll notice that I went and put these at an angle, kind of like, you know, book being partly open, to get that bend, that nice bend. So that's something that you can look at later on in this tutorial. You'll see the different tips and tricks that I'll have for you so that you can see how things flow properly. So I will be working with black epoxy clay. These right here, you can make a template. I provided some ear sales cards. You can use those as a template if you like. But if you get just a little piece of wire, and you're going to want probably something at 18 gauge is nice. It'll hold its wiring well so that you don't accidentally undo the curls while you're working with it. But you can get how the ear is kind of shaped with your piece and kind of loop that around. Now this right here, you don't have to have this extra little piece here. This is 6 inches of wire. Just 6 inches will get you that much. This right here is the tail. You can do whatever you want with your tail. You can make it short. You can make it long. You can make it wrap around back to the wing, whatever you want to do. But I like having 6 inches because if you don't want that extra tail on there, all you have to do is just pinch it off and save that piece for something else. So have your template, have your ears or your wire or a piece of paper with the shape of an ear on there so that you can kind of see where the shape is. But also keep in mind, if you're using a piece of paper, keep in mind that behind the ear comes in here more than out here. So when you're doing your wiring, just make sure that you kind of, you know, keep within the earlobe itself on the paper to give you that idea of where the design. It really is the shape of an egg at the top to go around somebody's ear. You just don't want that loop coming so far in. You want it to kind of go down or curl in, not shaped so close. You want it to have space. And this coming in towards the ear is the shape of the ear, so it just flows nicely to hook around your ear and flow down there and around. The next thing that you can have on hand to make this a really fun project is your beads, your gems. You can use glass or you can use plastic. The epoxy has an adhesive that will bind to both the plastic and glass. And so if you've been, you know, waiting to use some plastic beads on something, this is definitely something to play around and get used to figuring out how to use epoxy clay to your advantage. This is a box of beads that I purchased off of Amazon. I'll provide the link also in the comments. This has all the different sizes from small to large, which is awesome because it gives you that whole different array of working from tiny on up to whatever size you're comfortable with. And I love these acrylic beads. These are flat backed, and I love these because they just work. They're versatile in this particular project. More, you can use even things that aren't flat, like these bead treasures hearts. I always have those. I have flat back hearts, moons, hearts, stars. This is hearts and stars right here. There's just so many different types of beads and gems that you can use in this particular thing. You can also, and keep in mind, if you have buttons, I used to purchase these for a long time ago. I've had these literally, God, for so many years, but you can add things like these that if you happen to have little buttons that have gems in them, you can add those to your butterfly or whatever ear hook design that you choose to make, because you don't have to stick to just butterflies. You can use anything that you want. They're really lightweight, and they're called filigree. Gosh, I just add filigree to your search bar and you'll find all kinds of different ones, but you know, these came with I guess like scrapbooking kit that I had a long time ago, so I held on to that, and I thought that would be a nice little neat design to put inside an ear. And also these leaves that I haven't used on really anything else. I can use these also with the epoxy clay. Will bind to all kinds of things, so have fun with this. You can also use mica powder. As you can see, this one is without using any mica at all. This is just the beads, and this one's with using different shades of mica powder from the flowers all the way to the background. But you can see that mica powder is just so cool. So whatever you choose to do with your particular ear cuff or ear hook, feel free to do it, because this is all inclusive as far as different things that you can use. So whatever you have around, start with that. So the next thing that you are going to need is some type of a template of a butterfly wing. You can find those online, or if you like, you can purchase my custom created butterfly cutters. Now this is the largest butterfly wing right here, and then this is the largest butterfly wing of the whole set. Now they come from, you know, this large all the way down to the teeny tiny size. So if you wanted to make little butterfly studs, you can do that as well. But they go all the way down teeny tiny. I think this one couldn't be more than an inch. It's probably less than an inch, but I don't have my ruler right now. But I think that's the tiniest one that I have. But there's, trying to grab the other one as well. So there's two different types of these little butterfly cutters. And what I recommend for when you're making these ear cuffs is I like the second size to the largest. So look at the largest butterfly wing and then get the second largest. And I think that's a nice size for the ear. You can take my word for it that the second to the largest is probably your best bet. And I will put that in that link in the comments to these butterfly cutters so that you can get yourself some of these. These are super great because you can do, you know, you can do 2 wings overlapping and have 1 butterfly, or you can, you know, overlap them large to second to small and have the 2 wings so that you can kind of shadow box it. But there's definitely different ways that you could use these cutters for different tutorials. You can make pendants, you can make pins, you can make earrings. There's a size for everybody in this particular set. So I hope you guys enjoy these. So what you do is you get your epoxy clay out of the little jar, and there's part A and part B. Really doesn't say on this one, but if you get the white, I will recommend that if you're doing this for the first time, I would recommend doing black in this brand, just because it is it's a little easier to work with, while the white is more like, if your hands are warm, it'll feel really gummy and hard to work with as far as creating a solid design. I eyeball this. You can use a scale. And if you do use a scale, like I said, you can use 10 grams of each piece, and that will work. I put it in a square. I just shape it into a square, and that's why I eyeball it. Now, also, while you're working with this, you're going to want some deli paper or wax paper to put your stuff on, because, like I said, this does bind to glass. And you're going to want a paper towel or baby wipes to wipe your fingers, or you can wear gloves. I will tell you that I do tend to wear gloves when making a bunch of these, to mix a lot of this, just because I don't want it on my fingers. I don't like the feeling of it, but it does tend to stick to the gloves a lot. So I just sit here and I put these together in the shape of a square until they both look pretty much the same size. And yes, I do eyeball it every single time. I've only ever measured it once, and that's because I always eyeball it and I've never had any issues. The one time I measured it, I swear that's when I had the most problems with it, to where I don't think the ratio was correct or something. But it was exact. But when I eyeball it, I can get it pretty exact. Close enough, right? As long as it retains and keeps its stability, that's what you're aiming for. And the reason that, say, you can't do a whole lot as far as design work, as far as how it's going to look as far as color wise, unless you use the white. You can use pan pastel, which is, I don't know if you have any experience with pan pastels, but they're amazing chalk pastels, and I have a set. This is just the ones that I'm using currently. I put them in this tray while I'm using it, and then they screw together in cute little stackable jars when you're not in use. But anyway, I have a bunch of those, and you can use that pan pastel to color your wings. Okay, so this looks... Okay, that's good enough. Make sure you close your lids. You don't want this to dry out. Sometimes I like to add a bit of wax paper to take out some of the air so that it stays better longer. All right, so I'm going to mix this together. And like I said, this is the black. If you were mixing white, this would be turning white. So since we're working with black, it's going to turn all completely black. There is a mixture that you can get where the epoxy clay is gray, if you would prefer a more neutral color. I have not tried to mix the 2 epoxy clays together as far as black and white, but I would assume that you could probably make gray that way too, but it seems like an awful lot of work. Now, like I said, a little goes a long way. This is only about 20 grams of epoxy. And I like to make sure it's fully mixed. Don't stop mixing it. Just make sure it's all thoroughly. And you'll know it's really good when you start seeing, it completely black. It'll get like a, it won't have a shine to it, but it'll have kind of a matte black to it. And then once you get it that way, you want to put it into the shape of roughly a rectangle or a square. You just start out, so you're flattening it at the same time. Now, when you're working with a cutter, you want your epoxy clay to be the length and the width of what you're cutting, and the thinness that you want to use on this is a thinness of 3 on your pasta machine. You don't need to go any thinner or thicker. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to stretch this out until I reach the height that I need for my cutter. Now I'm going to need to mix some more epoxy clay in order to get another wing out of this, but that's okay. You only want to work with a little bit at a time. You don't want to mix a whole bunch of it together and start working with it, and because the longer you work with it, the more, you know, hard it's going to be. It's going to start to harden. Okay, so I'm almost there. So now what I like to do, once I get it close, I'm going to close my wax paper over the top of that and take my roller. And now I'm going to start rolling this out. Make sure you go in all directions just to kind of keep it even. But like I said, I'm trying to get it so that it's the length of my cutter. And I'm giving nice firm pressure. Almost there. So I'm going to open this up again. Now, this epoxy clay can stick to your wax paper something fierce, but it's the best stuff to work on. I'm just going to stretch my epoxy clay now, just a little bit, because I'm almost there. I'll put my wax paper on the back of where I was working with it. I'm going to put it in the paper again. Only this time, I'm going to run this through my pasta machine. Now, when you're running this through your pasta machine, you want to make sure that your wax paper is protecting your pasta machine rollers. You do not want to put the epoxy clay through on your rollers unless you clean it immediately, and even then you just don't know if you've left something behind. It's going to harden, and it's not going to be easy to take that off of your rollers, and it may damage them forever. So do not put epoxy clay through your pasta machine. So I'm going to go to the lowest setting, which is the most wide you can go. Now, there is a tip to doing this. When you're putting epoxy clay through your pasta machine, always have some extra paper on the side that you can feed through your pasta machine so that you can grab it on the other side. You want to be able to grab that paper on the other side so you can pull it through as you're turning slowly, because it won't want to go through, because it'll just spin the wheels on the wax paper, okay? So I'm going to put this through the long way because I need it a little bit longer for my butterfly. Feed that through, and now I can feel it and pull on it. And now I'm going to slowly turn my wheel and my handle, and I'm just pulling that through nice and slow. And let's see now we are cooking. Now it is definitely tall enough for me to make a cut. So now I just need it a little wider. And like I said, we want a thickness of 3. So just work your way down to a thickness of 3, one level at a time, one thickness at a time. So that's a 1. And here's 2. And here's 3. Can be a little bit stubborn. Okay, so now I'm going to peel my paper back on one side, and I'm going to remove it from the other as well. Very slowly peel it off. Don't pull, just, you can even put it down on the tile and just peel it back slowly this way. Why am I doing this? Because if you leave it on this paper, having run it through the machine, it will stick to that wax paper. So you're going to need another sheet of wax paper to work on that it hasn't adhered itself completely to. And so you can probably see that there's some wrinkles on here, and there are a little bit of wrinkles on that side. That's from the wax paper. You can just take your roller and lightly work that out, or you can take some kind of sponge and texturize your sheet and sometimes that'll hide your wrinkles. Now, if you're working with the white epoxy clay and it's super, super sticky, like I came across, go ahead and add you can add your glitter. Whatever mica powder you want to use, you can use that. The mica powder will serve as your way of not sticking to the surface. Now, if your desire is not to have mica powder, you can use cornstarch on your fingers, but don't put it directly on the clay. You can dust your surface, but you don't want to use a lot because it will show up on that black clay. Maybe not so much on the white, but I will also tell you that if you use it on the white clay, whatever you put on there, once you get it on there, you're not going to get mica powder to stick to the epoxy because it's already cornstarched. So keep that in mind as well if you plan on coloring your clay. Now you're probably thinking, well, if that's gonna not work with mica and cornstarch, how are you going to get those gems to stick to the epoxy clay? Once you push your gems into the epoxy clay, it actually, you're pushing it into an area below the surface that doesn't have the mica powder on it, and so that in itself is enough of the epoxy clay to touch that gem to hold on to it. I have not had any gems fall out so far from using epoxy clay in either beads or glass beads. So epoxy clay is a pretty solid choice if you want something that's going to retain its ability to be strong, not flexible. It will not flex, and that's why the beads stay so well. So now that I have that side done, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. And again, don't pull, peel. If you pull, you're going to make your wing thinner in one spot than another, and you don't want that. Flip it over and put that side down, and now I'm going to do the same thing. A little tip when you're putting a texture sponge on the surface, if you still see the wrinkles in it and it's not releasing the wrinkles, take your sponge and twist it a little bit as you're putting it on the surface, and it'll start moving that clay so that it'll start releasing that wrinkle a little more. Not a lot, just a little twist. All right, so now you just figure out where you want your cut to be at. And give a nice firm cut. I like rubbing it on the surface. You can pick it up, and if you see the outline of the cutter, then you're good. I typically like to just peel it off like that instead of trying to peel the clay from the surface, because this is a lot quicker in getting those edges off, and then you can just push out your piece gently. And gently get your piece out with these little pieces right here. Just be slow and gentle. If you used mica powder, it should release fairly easy. Sometimes if you don't have mica powder on it, sometimes it takes a little more finesse, but just go slowly. Immediately clean your cutter of any of that epoxy clay debris. And I purposely left clay on my cutter before I used my epoxy clay, just to kind of protect it a little bit from that epoxy clay. If I forget to wipe this off, it will dry on there and form a crusty buildup that you can't get off without breaking your cutter, possibly. So clean up immediately. Just a little baby wipe and a little bit of finesse should take it right off. Now for this piece right here, this leftover piece, this might actually be enough for another wing. I'm going to go ahead and just mix this together again. and it will absorb all that mica powder that's on it. And you'll notice that it really does, a little bit of the mica powder still left behind, but very usable piece here. So what I usually do is I use this leftover piece to make my hook. Now you can roll your clay out on a glass or tile. Do keep in mind that when you roll these out, you'll still see some of the lines from combining the clay to roll it. In order to get rid of that, you have to keep squinching the snake up and then rolling it out, and sometimes doing that will actually cause it to stick to your tile. Put a little bit of water on your tile with a baby wipe or a paper towel, and that should be enough. Okay, so what you're aiming for, like I said, is 6 inches of snake, which is right here. So I'm going to pinch that off. I have this piece over here. I'll just put that over there as extra. And your snake doesn't have to be any thicker than half your pinky. Like, it does not need to be thick. It's going to hold up. Your piece is already a thickness of 3, which is pretty thin considering, but some people like 4s and 5 thickness, so with some of their clay pieces. Okay, so what I do is, the first thing, I'm gonna put this back over here, get your snake and start working it into the shape. I'm going to put this underneath the wax paper so that it's not in the way, but I can still see it. Do your little curl, all right? And sometimes taping this down to the background helps too. There we go. And there, voila, I have my curl. Now I can take that from underneath and put my butterfly. I'm going to take this piece, put it over here. Now, this is an extra piece that I'm going to go ahead and take a piece of wax paper and I'm going to roll it up so that it maintains its freshness while I'm working on this. So you have to decide on where you want to put your butterfly. Do you want to put it up high, or do you want to put it down low so that's behind the bottom of the ear? And you can do that by looking at your ear. I like to do them right about here and have them flared out. So I'm going to put the body on the back side so that the ear doesn't feel that body. And I'm just going to gently join those together. Put wax paper on that right there, behind the wing. And now all you do is you can either put some indents in there. You can use silicone tools to kind of make some lines to go down. This is a flat tip. And silicone tools, you don't have to worry about the epoxy clay binding too hard on those. Now, if you use anything metal, the metal will, the epoxy clay will bind to the metal. And you can use your ball tools too, but I'm not going to do that because I'm going to be using my beads for this. I can see cutting this in half. Now be careful with these types of things because they can remain very, very sharp. All right, so I'm going to embed this here. Now that extra little piece of clay that I have off the side is still in my paper, so I can take that and take a little piece and make a little snake. You can get this epoxy clay pretty thin. Now again, if you're working with the white, I don't know whether it's the batch that I got, but it's really hard for me to work with a gummy type consistency, and this isn't gummy right here. So I'm going to take my little tool and just make sure that that's bound behind that. And voila! Now all the sharp pieces, if you have any, just make sure that those are covered. This is right here, that's a little, that was already on here, so that's not really sharp. That's not something I have to worry about. So, but I did cover this sharp edge, and this sharp edge is really nice and embedded inside that piece here, so I don't have to do anything else with that. So I'm going to take my epoxy clay and make some more snakes to go with this. Since I used one, I want to kind of keep that theme going. Okay, so my favorite tool for using to embed gems is definitely going to be this little tool right here. It's got a wax tip on one end and then like a little round tip on this side, like a pencil or an mechanical pencil type tip. And so that's useful in keeping things level to push your gems in. So I think what I'll do is what I do is I grab the tiniest gems and I work with those first to kind of work a design. And I won't push everything in. What I'll do is I'll just get it to where it sits on the top, and then I'll just keep going. All right, so after you've gotten your gems on there, you can go ahead and put your little details on if you still want to add some of this to outline your butterfly or to kind of tie in the top piece. You can take your baby wipe and clean your fingers and take that little snake that you had waiting and go ahead and figure out where the best spot for that to be is. I think it's right here. You take your piece, a little piece of cardboard or you know, paper that's nice and sturdy and thick, and bend it in half just like this. It doesn't need to be exactly, you know, it could be 50-50, you know, this on the sides, whatever you want to do. Go underneath your piece and make sure that where the body is and where this loop is right there in the bend, so that, let me bend this in half so you guys can see, just like that. And what that does is that makes it flare out so that when somebody's wearing the ear or the ear hook, that it flares out from the head. You see how it'll flare out from the head when it dries like that? It's just got a slight bend to it. Now, once this starts to get hard, you can actually take this off of the wax paper and it will dry even quicker. But just wait for it to get fairly stiff before you do that, because you don't, again, you don't want to mess with the curl that makes it so that this fits on the ear so well. So I'm going to set this off to the side, and then once it's completely hardened, I will go ahead and come back and take it off the card and let it dry a little bit more. It's pretty much rock hard overnight. So if you let this dry for a good, you know, or yeah, air out dry for a good 7 hours, it's pretty much rock hard by then, and you can just kind of mess with it and see how you like it. You can use also, if you happen to have, if you have molds, you can actually take your epoxy clay. I still have this little tiny piece left over. And it may be a little stiff, but go ahead and just mix it again, and it will actually stop being so stiff. And you can actually place your epoxy clay in your mold. Get yourself a nice imprint there. Slowly pull it out, because you can stretch it out. So I got a little flower right here, and I can just take a little bit of my pretty mica powder here and just get the middle and around the middle. Now, if you are finding that your epoxy clay is sticking inside your mold, go ahead and put the glitter or the mica powder inside the mold, and then you can just slowly peel that from your finger, just like that, and you can put it on your piece, and it'll stick right to it because it sticks to itself. So I can't do just one of those. I have to do more than one so that it has rhyme and reason. Just so that the gold will match my flowers, I think what I'll do is I'll actually add gold to the center of these flowers just to make it pop a little more. Like I said, if it starts sticking inside the mold, put the glitter inside the mold, and then add make sure you ball it up, because it will release instantly, and so you got to be ready for it to release, because it'll release it right onto your finger with a perfect imprint. And the next 2 or 3 will release as well. Super easy. All right, so there's nothing really left to do on here unless you want to do anything to the body of the butterfly itself, like add, you know, marks to it or you know, texture. But this is the way I'll leave it for the next, make sure that the bend is right where the body is. And I'll leave that off to the side. And now let's start our next one. Okay, so now what I have here for the second butterfly, I have the same things as I had before. I have my little wire, so I know what shape to put my ear hook in, although I think I bent it a little bit, moving it around. But anyway, I have a texture sponge, my cutter, I have a leaf cutter, just in case I want to make leaves, but I also have these moons. I also have something new that you guys might have seen in my other butterfly hook, is the little butterfly charms for nail art. Anything that says nail art is pretty much going to be fabulous to use with these. I bought a set of these glass flatback gems. I think I got 5 of them, and each box is a different size. So I have a ton of these, and they were super cheap. Link to these are in the comments. You can find these, I'm not sure where, I've had these for quite a while, but I'll put the link to the butterflies and to the gems. The moons you'll have to find on your own, because again, I purchased those on a discount somewhere, so I don't have those, that link handy. So the rest of this is just going to be watch and view, and see what exactly you want to do with yours as opposed to what I do with mine. Again, I'm going to use my mica powders and make this all nice and pretty, so you guys just sit back and take a look and see how you like this one. Okay guys, everything is all done. So I have my ear molds out. As you can see, they're 2 right ears. I do have my left ear, but I went ahead and made 2 right ear pieces. So everything is solidly done. Now you just put it on your ear mold. And sometimes if you make a loop ahead of time to match, and the one that fits on the ear, or your ear is the one that you use as a template the most. So sometimes these fit really good on certain ears while they don't fit on other ears. So do expect there's going to be some variations in your ears, you know, the people that try these on. So that's why you're going to want, you know, have them basically available so that people can try them on, so that they can see which one that they like the best. Because like I said, sometimes, there we go, I just had to kind of pull that down so that it kind of hugged like it would the back of the head into the earlobe. So try them on, see how you like them. If you make a noodle ahead of time and let it dry out and use that as a template and do different ones so that you can see how it feels on your ear, to see how you would like it best, how it would best fit. And then the one that you like the best, try it on your template ear if you don't have one of these, and just try it on different people after it's been dried out and see how people like that one the most. So try things out, experiment. You're gonna love making these. Like I said, I've made so many of them. I'm about to go to market this weekend and see how everybody does with them. I've made some small ones for little ones and some big ones for people who are a little more vivacious. So I hope you guys like this tutorial. I hope you guys go ahead and make some, and feel free to sell them at your events and festivals and stuff. And get yourself some butterfly cutters. There's Misty also has dragon wing cutters, so if you want to make dragon wings, you can do that as well. So just get out there and be creative and have fun, and create some more with these. I hope you guys have fun with them. I will see you next time. Have a great day.